think Indy has to go get a quarterback. Has to.
Do you think we have now? Bryce Young is what, 5'10" or something like that? No offense, Bryce Young. This is stats. Stats are stats. The NFL is the men's league, and quarterbacks are going to get hit standing like this, murdered like this, and hit this way with their heads going this way. Bryce Young is allegedly the Steph Curry of football. CJ Stroud, we watched him live in person. Big, strong. He was on the show. Dog talked a little shit. I appreciate that. Will Levis out of Kentucky, big dude. Everybody's saying could potentially become a great NFL quarterback because there's other players of the past that have looked like him that have gone on to do great, like Josh Allen and such. Those four, clear top four. And how would you rank them at this exact moment? Now, 3 out of those 4 are participating in the combine, throwing.
Right.
CJ, Will, and Anthony Richardson are all throwing at the combine. So who knows what that means? I think that lifts them in my eyes, no matter how they do. What are your thoughts on those 4? And is it those 4 just interchangeably? And will somebody have to go to 1 to get all of these guys?
So Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Richardson, Levis for me right now, as I sit here today.
Does that worry you? He's this big?
Yo, I honestly, I think it is going to be so individualized, the Bryce Young thing. Because he is little. I've lived in the world. Yeah, I think he's unbelievable. I think his talent, it's Bryce Young. It is player-wise, because here's the thing, Pat. You watch him play and you go player-wise, that's the guy. Just watch the guys play the quarterback position and Bryce is the best player. But there will be teams, and it's their right to be there. Nope, the size thing, I'm not doing it. And here's the reality. It's really hard. I challenge anybody to find a guy as little as Bryce that we see in the NFL right now balling.
Yeah.
Or we have for the last 20 years.
Bro, I think that would be a tough, and this is not Bryce's fault. There's literally nothing Bryce could do about this. He is a baller. He is different. He's an anomaly.
Good.
But every time you watch football, guys are great. And then can they handle grown fucking men attempting to make a legacy and a living while tackling them? It's a tough thing that people have to think about.
I think the thing, Pat, is going to be this. It's going to have to be an owner going, I'm totally good with the size.
Well, Jim
Irsay. And here's the thing. What are you willing to roll the dice on?
Remember that? That's what he said. And then Chris Ballard goes, we can trade back, too, Jim. Guy in Alabama.
This guy loves picks.
They're in the press conference. They are.
From Alabama looks pretty good.
Pretty good, doesn't he? Well, we can trade back. Yeah. I'm fucking sick of your shit. Yeah. It's kind of what Irsay said.
I'm so much more willing to roll the dice that he's going to be good or he won't fail because he can't play more than he'll fail because of his size.
Got it.
He can flat out play.
Got it. Connor has a question for you, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, first I just want to give you your flowers because you were 100% right on the Patriots and Mac Jones. And, I don't think people do that.
We dogged you for it.
We did. Big time.
Because that was your number one concern. Do you remember that? My number one concern. It was like,
you were right on.
Yeah.
And you were correct. And also, I'm sick of people, stealing your shit because I see it too much on social and on TV. But when you look at the Bears situation, I forget who brought it up on one of the shows that you co-host for, those 170 days. The Justin Fields being traded for, some sort of top 5. Tannenbaum. He would be traded so that they could take maybe Bryce Young or one of the guys that you think is a total, complete stud, going to be a star. What do you think about that? And do you think that there's any sort of validation to that?
I mean, there's absolutely validation because it's the number 1 pick. So I can understand the theory behind it as far as the starting point. I wouldn't do it. I think if you're the Bears, you have to number 1 go, who do we think is the best long-term prospect? It's not just about resetting the quarterback financial market. The Jets did that 2 years ago with Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson. And the main reasoning was, let's reset the quarterback financial time frame for our organization. That obviously didn't turn out. So who do they think is going to be the better player long term? Right now, as much as I love Bryce, I feel better watching Justin's body of work in 2 years in the NFL. I really do.
He was the only positive for the Bears, was he not? He was the only positive. And then Tannenbaum says that. He's former general manager. And then we start talking about it. We're like,
actually,
hold on. Maybe, because Justin you probably could get good trade for how good Justin Fields looked.
I think that's the next step, Pat, is if you're the Bears, what do we think we can trade the number 1 pick for? in comparison to what do we think we can get for Justin Fields. And I think the number one pick is going to be able to get way more than what Justin's going to get you, mainly because if you're a team and you need a young quarterback and you trade for Justin, you basically have like a year and a half to figure out till you have to pay him, and that's a new start for you as well. So I think, and there's quarterback desperate teams, obviously, but I don't think Chicago should trade him.
Me neither. We love Justin Fields. He was like the only upside almost. We have a Chicago Bears fan, obviously, in the building in Zito, and they have the number one pick. They sucked.
Think about it.
They were terrible.
We're on the clock.
Yeah, they have the number one pick, and he accounted for what, like 25 plus touchdowns, and they have the number one pick. That tells you how much their roster stinks.
Well, yeah, they stunk, and the only thing that brought any happiness to Zito was, Justin Fields.
Yeah,
Remember?
Yep.
Yeah, he's running all over him. That was literally the only thing. And then all of a sudden,
You know what I'd say too, Pat, real quick. I don't mean to cut you off, but like,
Dan, you're sure.
I also think C.J. Stroud is going to benefit from Justin's performance because the whole knock of like the Ohio State quarterbacks, well, we haven't seen one good. And the last thing I'll say on the rookies, because I know I could take C.J. Stroud's. Everyone's going to talk about the Georgia tape. I could take his Wisconsin tape and put it up against any quarterback that's come out in.
Did he run in that game?
A little bit, but
I think that's why.
I wanted to watch a dude.
I think that's why everybody's talking about the Georgia game because he ran.
Yeah.
I think it's because he ran.
But we live in this world right now where we talk about quarterbacks and it's like, well, how much can he create on his own? One, we like maybe some guys don't need to because they're so good at everything else. And then the second thing is, while he may not be as creative as, I don't know, Bryce is, we talk about him like he's then a statue. Like if you're not this incredibly creative guy, you can't get yourself out of bad stuff.
Yeah.
Watch him in those games. Watch the Notre Dame game. Watch him. I'm telling you, I could put his Wisconsin tape against any quarterback that has come out of the draft in 3 years.
We love CJ.
Oh yeah,
We got to watch him obviously for that megacast live. Like I got to see his, like just look at him. I'm like, oh, that's a Sunday quarterback. Like you could literally like look at him and be like, that's a Sunday quarterback. Then he came on the show, awesome, and then now he's throwing at the combine. Doesn't have to. Fucking love that. Like everything he's doing, I'm a massive fan of. I'll be excited to see how those four kind of fall into place.
He's the best passer in the draft, just as far as like guys that can just purely, if we just want you to go, hey, who can throw it the best? It's Bryce. It's C.J. Stroud.
I think I saw you steal this from Kurt Warner, but Kurt tweeted. He said, "How come we always talk about guys extending plays and everything like that? Do we think maybe they just missed the read? Like some guys just can't make as good of read on something, so they have to run." He was like, "I feel like there's a misjudgment on some things," and it's kind of to your point about how we feel like everybody has to be able to run and do this. He was like, "But if a guy can dissect a defense and do it, probably don't need to do that as much." It's an interesting combo because we're in the transition of the NFL right now, Dan. Transition of the NFL right now. Joey Burrow, I think, is really the cerebral pocket passer of the NFL. But Patrick Mahomes, what are they, like 10-0 whenever he throws 90% from inside the pocket? It's like you got to be able to do both, I think. But the both is certainly becoming a lot more prevalent as opposed to just one.